welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your nights to come in and maybe get a babysitter or maybe arrange for you to be out than what you'd normally do on a Monday. But yeah, really glad that you guys are here to prioritise cyber safety. Show of hands, who came last year? Wonderful. So hands up if this is your first cyber safety night in primary. Wonderful. Okay. Well, we've got a little bit from last year, but a lot of it's fresh, so that's really great. My name's Brendan Death, but I'm also joined by Tanya Vaughan, our head of primary over there, and we've got Jude Shields over here, our head of senior primary, and Joe Bryant, our head of junior primary. And I've told them to jump in and say things as the night goes on because we don't just want me up here. So they're here as well, so thanks for being here. I want to start a bit about me and why I'm actually up the front because sometimes you might get someone from outside the school coming in, but I actually love technology. I love it, and I really love the positive impact technology can have. And I'm very blessed and privileged to be able to have wellbeing as part of my role here, and I see cyber safety as very much a student wellbeing issue. So thank you for making the parent side of it a priority tonight. I really feel this is close to my heart. So that's why I'm up the front here, and I'm very excited to be up here. A lot of what I'm talking about too is actually tried and tested. I've got two girls. I've got a 10-year-old who's incredibly compliant and a 13-year-old who pushes every boundary. So I've heard the whole, my friends all have this, and I've seen the boundaries broken, so I want to empathise if that's you. If that's not you yet, let's have a chat in the future. So. But I really do feel passionate about raising tech-healthy humans. We've named tonight Raising Humans in a Bold and Biblical Way. I think we have to be bold, and I think it's a posture that we need to have in a world where social media and the digital media can be a bit contrary to what we believe as followers of the Lord, especially in a Christian school. You're going against the current sometimes. So I think it's great that you guys are here to do that. I'm going to start by praying. So let's bow our heads and we'll pray. Father God, we thank you so much for this time. I want to thank you so much for these wonderful parents. You've entrusted wonderful little humans in their care, and I thank you that tonight we get to talk about keeping them safe online. Lord, be with us, we pray. Help us to be bold and teach us new things, we pray, God, as we're here. We invite your Holy Spirit just to work through us and to continue from this place as we leave. In your name, amen. So I wonder why you're here. I wonder if you just want to have a think about that now. I don't know if someone's told you to come along and said you need to go to this session. I'm not sure if there's a problem you want solved. But I guess it might be because you want to be informed. And thanks for taking the survey. I am going to use that data set. There's quite a few of us who don't feel very informed and some of us that feel somewhat informed. And there's a good group of us that feel like we are informed. I'm going to be opening up a fair bit tonight, so feel free to be confident in putting up your hand and sharing. And it might be that you're a bit vulnerable as well, and that's okay. But I do know that we've got a mix of experiences here, and I think we can learn a bit about each other. So I guess you've made the time to come here. So being a cyber safety presentation, I'm going to put it in your court if you want to try and really make sure you're focused in tonight. It might be that you need to turn your phone onto silent, or you might need to put it into do not disturb mode, just so that we can be fully present. And we've also given you the notes with a pencil because you do take in a lot more when you write it with your hands. So as much as it's a technology presentation, writing with a pencil is actually going to retain more in your brain. There's two main sources of information that I've used for this talk. Last year I used Raising Tech-Healthy Humans by a Christian author called Daniel C. He's got a podcast as well, but his book is quite digestible, and it's that popular that the Christian Education National, which is actually the body that Don Vale operates within the banner, they've actually put it onto their e-store. So they fully believe in this book, and they've made a Christian Parents Edition. So you've got that there. I highly recommend this. It's a very easy read, and it's very practical. Another book we're reading at the moment is one that a lot of our teachers at school have actually just started reading because they want it. It's called The Anxious Generation, and we are going to be using some of that information on there. But if you go to that website, there's quite a bit of a supplement that can help you at home as well. So that website's on your notes.
Brendan, that one comes as an audio book as well.
Oh, okay. So, yep.
Audio book is your thing, The Anxious Generation. information is a good one to be listening to if you're going to and from work.
Yeah, and you'll definitely want to go home and check out the graphs he's talking about, because it's full of, graphs and things. So, thank you for that, Tanya. eSafety.gov, another great government website. I haven't mentioned one yet, the one that we've got. So we've got a few stats from there just to set the scene for tonight. So 1 in 5 young Australians aged 8 to 17 years reported being socially excluded, threatened or abused online. 1 in 5 young people, excuse me for reading off the slides, 15% of kids, 24% of teens also admitted to behaving in a negative way to a peer, so actually dishing out that negative behaviour. So 1 in 5, such as name calling, deliberately excluding them or threatening lies or rumours, and 90% of those people had a negative experience themselves. So it's a bit of a perpetuating cycle. A high proportion of young people aged 12 to 17 in Australia have encountered inappropriate or hateful content online. And again, some statistics there, but the one that I find really alarming is this one. Nearly half of children between the ages of 9 to 16 experience regular exposure to sexualised images, which is a bit sad. And that's why we're here, isn't it? Just to try and make sure that they don't end up with a device that can just be opened up to anything that they want. And again, sorry for reading off the slide, I won't do this that often, but app features that can increase the risk of these sorts of statistics involves content sharing. So apps that can share content with an individual or limited group of users, or it may be publicly available for anyone to view, access, forward or download. Content includes text messages, emails, comments, images, videos or any file format containing data. Content sharing can be a great way to connect with people, share information and stay up to date. However, it may also expose users to violent, sexualised or age-inappropriate content. It's interesting that text messaging's in there. Hands up if your child has just a text messaging feature on a device at home. Good. I was like, yep. Okay, well, it's just an interesting one because we often think about content sharing like Instagram and Facebook, but even just sharing a text message or being able to do that on a family device does open them up to that content sharing. These are apps designed for adults. So Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Facebook and Discord. They're all designed for adults, and in the hands of children, we need to be very careful. So let's really look at social media, the social media side of cyber safety at the moment. Now I want you to have a bit of a look for a sec and have a look up here. I want you to tell me, what are some of the things you see here? What do you see from this image? What are our children seeing? If they saw this, what are they seeing? Influences? Seeing a lot of influences up there, yep.
It's just an overload of information.
Yeah. Overload of, yep. It is, yeah.
All about image.
Yep. There's some filters on there that are enhancing or changing the image, yep. Got some memes. I'll go back a bit just for a sec. I think the biggest thing here is to know that if children are put on social media early, and it sounds like no one put up their hand for text messaging then, so has anyone have their children on social media of any kind? Not one of you, that's amazing. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be reinforcing the decisions you're making and I guess helping you out with the battle that potentially could come if you've got young children, because we are going to talk a bit about adolescent years. But believe me when I say this, everything we talk about at the younger years, if we're putting things in place now, it'll save us later on. I think the thing to know is if your child gets onto social media, they will be dished up that content. How do social media platforms dish up content? What do they take in from the user?
The algorithm.
Yeah, so what's the algorithm picking up?
What you like.
What you like? Yeah, so what you've pressed like on?
Yep, content that jives with the target demographic.
Yeah. Yep, so the targeted demographic being a child, they'd know their age, if they're setting it up, gender. Yep, they'd know what they've not even liked, what they've kind of stopped on and scrolled on, what they're going to follow. might even know your ethnicity based on your location, and it's going to dish you up stuff that they're going to be like, well, this is what I know I'm going to get engagement with. So a lot of us know this, I know, but that's just something that is very important to know, is that those sorts of influences, you know, a 13-year-old male might be dished that straight away. It's quite worrying. Show of hands, who's seen this? Okay. Thoughts? Confronting's the word, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Gets the conversation started, that's for sure. It's a new series on Netflix. It's not a documentary. It's a movie. It's quite fascinating the way they filmed it. That's one of the things that has really made it popular. But as well, it's an extreme case of what social media can do and influence young children. So it's not for the faint of heart at all. But what it can do, if you're up for it, is it's good for discussions as parents, just as your children get older. What do we know? I guess it sounds like I'm hearing that you guys are a pretty well-educated group. So I'm going to ask you another question. So what effects does social media have on adolescents? Let's talk about adolescence. Like, do we know what social media has an effect on with, say, children between the age of 10 and 18?
Attention span.
Attention span deficits? Yep. So your attention goes down. Dopamine overload, yep, looking for a dopamine hit. What was it?
Normalising poor behaviour.
Yes, normalising poor behaviour.
Concerns with their image.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, comparison. Yep. There's also been a lot of talk about higher rates of depression and anxiety as well. Yeah, so look, that's what we're going to go into now, is the effects of social media. And a lot of the debate at the moment has been around the correlation versus causation. So hands up if you know what I mean when I say correlation versus causation. Okay, if you don't, thought I'd do a bit of a lesson with you. So I love Alan Kohler. I watch the ABC News, and he did this thing where he talked about correlation versus causation. So he's got two graphs here, and they match up. And they're correlated. One of them's the RBA cash rate, and the other one's the average AFL bounces per player. Now, the average bounces per player does not impact the RBA rate decision. That's correlation, okay? A lot of people will say the rise in anxiety and depression does not is not caused by social media. They'll say it's correlated. All of the research coming out now, though, talks about that it is causation. So causation refers to a relationship where one event or a variable directly influences the other. For example, if you don't drink enough water, you'll get dehydrated. That's causation. If you don't drink enough water, you will dehydrate. Or another one is, if you work more hours at an hourly job, you'll get a bigger paycheck. That's causation. I'm going to read from The Anxious Generation, page 34, because it talks about this link. So I'll read it out to you. As adolescents get smartphones, they begin spending more time in the virtual world. 2015 Common Sense report found that teens with social media account reported spending about 2 hours a day on social media, and teens overall reported spending an average of nearly 7 hours a day of leisure time, not counting school and homework, on screen media, which includes playing video games and watching videos on Netflix, YouTube, or other sites. A 2015 report confirms these high numbers. 1 out of every 4 teens said that they were online almost constantly. 1 out of 4. By 2022, that number had nearly doubled to 46%. These almost constantly numbers are startling and may be the key to explaining the sudden collapse of adolescent mental health. These extraordinary high rates suggest that even when members of Gen Z are not on their device and appear to be doing something in the real world, such as sitting in class, eating a meal or talking with you, a substantial portion of their attention is monitoring or worrying / being anxious about events in the social metaverse. So, as the MIT professor Sherry Turkle wrote in 2015 about life without smartphones, we are forever elsewhere. This is a profound transformation of human consciousness and relationships, and it occurred for most teens between 2010 and 2015. And in this book, it talks about the great rewiring of the adolescent mind. We're going to look at some statistics here, because the great rewiring in these images happens where this grey area is here. So I'm going to show you a few graphs to show that this might not just be correlation, it's probably causation. And again, this is so that we know for when we're in the future, when our children get older, to stick strong to these boundaries that they put in place. So major depressive episodes in the last year, you can see that there's a huge spike in girls. It's gone up from the start of 2010, and then it went up during COVID, and it's kind of dipped off a bit there. This is the undergraduates with a mental illness. So this is the types of mental illness. So anxiety and depression are up there. Slight increases in other mental illnesses down the bottom there, although I don't think ADHD is one of them. But it's interesting that these two are the main flyers up there. This one's an interesting one because it's not just self-report data. Some people would say, well, mental health only really started becoming something we talked about recently, but if you've physically harmed yourself, you would need to go to the hospital. So emergency department visits for self-harm between the ages of 10 and 14 have also sprung up as well. And overnight mental health hospitalisations, and this is in Australia, so these are Australian statistics. I found this really interesting because if you have a look at 2008, females between the age of 12 and 24, they actually had a lower rate of mental health hospitalisations. And then they overtook your females 25 plus and males 25 plus. So it's that target audience that's really feeling it. This is another one. This is talking about the play-based, the decline of the play-based childhood, which is, again, is a part of the Anxious Generation book. But if you have a look, this is the percentage decline and the percentage increase. So they talk about the early 80s when this started happening. So you've got a bit of an increase from the 80s here in screen-based activities, and then outdoor play and socialising out of the home decreased. And this is what's important to know too, because having young children, this is probably more relevant. The great rewiring, which is that point between 2010 and 2015, is not just about changes in technology that shape children's days and minds. There's a second plot line here. The well-intentioned and disastrous shift towards overprotecting children and then restricting their autonomy in the real world. Children need a great deal of free play to thrive. It's an imperative that's evident across all mammal species. The small-scale challenges and setbacks that happen during play are like an inoculation that prepares children to face much larger challenges later. But for a variety of historical and sociological reasons, free play began to decline in the 1980s, and the decline accelerated in the 1990s. It's just an interesting one there because it's not just about adding screens, it's about taking away the play-based childhood. Just a few quick ones here. There's been you can see the sharp uptake in smartphones in that area there as well. And daily social media users, so that was when Facebook came out at the very beginning of 2006, and it was mainly computers that drove that, but then around about 2010, there was a sharp increase there. So is it correlation or is it causation? I think there's quite a few reasons to say, and I actually believe it is causation now after reading a lot about this. There's a lot of experimental studies indicating causation. So Jonathan Haidt in his book references experimental research where participants were asked to reduce their social media usage, and these studies found that such reductions led to improvements in mental health metrics, suggesting a causal relationship between social media use and mental health outcomes. So they actually felt better when they didn't have their technology. Has anyone done a technological fast? The next one, the rise of smartphones. So Haidt also notes that significant increase in adolescent mental health around 2012 when mobile phones got taken up with adolescents. Coincides with the widespread adoption of smartphones and social media platforms among teenagers, and it aligns as a causal link. Also, this is an interesting one. There's an international consistency. So some people will say, oh, it's just that country, it's just there. But across the world, internationally, it's actually exactly the same statistics no matter where you go. And I think that's a big indicator for causation. And the last one is that there's just no other explanation for this rise in anxiety and depression. So there's no plausible explanation, yet there's so much data to show that social media use and unmanned internet at home, phones in bedrooms, will increase, sadly, depression and anxiety in our children. Haidt concludes that while correlation does not always imply causation, the convergence of experimental evidence, temporal international patterns, and the lack of alternative explanation does make a compelling case that social media is a significant causal factor in the adolescent mental health crisis. But, and I said this was a mic drop moment, but there is a really good bit in the book, and I circled it, and I remember coming back and talking to a lot of people, so I do want to read something from the book. In The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt, though an atheist, and it's interesting hearing his view, acknowledges the valuable role that religious institutions and spiritual practices can play in supporting youth mental health. He appreciates traditional spiritual disciplines for their benefits to mental health and well-being. Specifically, Haidt outlines 6 significant practices. Shared sacredness, design sacred times and places, that's church on Sunday or small group or devotions in the morning. Embodiment through real-world experiences, silence and focus cultivated by prayer and meditation, transcending the self in worship, fostering forgiveness, and finding awe in nature. Haidt also notes that he sometimes requires religious concepts to fully grasp human experiences. This is so funny. You're nearly a Christian if you're watching this. Suggesting that secular frameworks alone may not suffice to address the complexities of human life. I find this so funny. While Haidt does not advocate for religion per se, he recognises that religious communities can offer valuable support structures, rituals, and a sense of belonging that contribute positively to mental health. God is still king. And I know I've just said a whole lot of doom and gloom and I've whacked that alarm button, but that is reason to celebrate. Okay, you guys being here, exposing them to a church community, talking about things is a huge benefit. So I just wanted to make sure that we hit that home. We're going to pivot a little bit because I think what's probably more pertinent for you guys now with younger kids is screen time. Okay, who's got screen limits at home for your child on devices? Amazing, that's so good. Who wants to tell me some of the screen time restrictions that you've got at home or some of the boundaries that you've got? Someone who hasn't shared yet.
No TV during the week.
No TV during the week, yep. That's a common one when I ask students, yep. So when can they, on the weekends?
Yeah.
Yep. We often talk about just screen time, but I also want to dive in a bit to our screen content. So the content they're seeing on the screen, that's important, but also screen context. So we'll go through all 3 of these. This is on your notes, so I'm sure you can see what the answers are, but 0 to 2, the recommendation is no screen time at all. So that's what has been put forward to us. And I am a Pharisee because when my daughter was born in 2012, we thought it was amazing when she could unlock a smartphone, and that was when we had no data to go, wow, what are these smartphones doing? But it was quite a thing of, we'll just frisbee the phone to them, and it was amazing what they could do. She watched Peppa Pig all the way home from Port Douglas one year and gave us no grief. It was a great babysitter. But obviously I'm regretting that now. 2 to 5 years old, less than an hour a day. And this is talking about, it's not just talking about screen usage at school. This is leisurely screen time. So we know that there's a bit of a difference between what's happening at school and at home. And just so that you guys know, we do talk about this a lot at school, and typically a child won't be exposed in a rotation activity for more than 15 to 20 minutes to a screen. And even in the upper years when they're doing project-based work, we try and make sure that there is a screen element that also interacts with the real world. So we're conscious of that as well. And then 5 to 17 years old, no more than 2 hours of sedentary recreation screen time per day. Yeah, again, not including schoolwork. Now, some of the statistics, this is from last year because we did survey the students last year with our Cyber Safety Night, and the data still holds true. So if you see here, it's really good to see that a lot of students, the majority of them, are between 0 and 3 hours a week. And then the middle band there, between 3 and 7 hours and 7 to 14, that's actually really good data, I do believe. We have got quite a few that are more than 14 hours. But again, like I see the positive in that. But also, surveying you, the parents, last year, how many hours per week do you give your children? You're actually enforcing a lower amount. So even though children think they're getting more time, a significant number of you, that purple band is quite low. So that's good to see. So screen content. I guess this is a thing where, as a parent, we need to take a very active role, because we need to be careful of games and education apps that have flashing colours and variable rewards. And these ramp up what we call the downstairs brain. So things like crazy maths games, or those ones that are button bashing ones, they can really turbocharge the downstairs brain, which is your fight, flight, freeze mode. And that's when that's why your children, if you don't give them time to cool down, can really just blow up if you turn off a TV in front of them. The upstairs brain is your thinking, planning, imagining, and that's the one that's still developing. So when you get your dopamine hits, that's your downstairs brain, and that's when you're heightened. I think it's really important with screen content, and again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but following classifications and ratings. As teachers, we do know when children have watched or heard something that they shouldn't have, because it doesn't happen that often, but they do test out this language that they've never heard before, and they might go to a friend and say things. So that's how we kind of know if something's happened, because they've got no idea what they're saying, but they've heard it and they're like, that's interesting, and they'll go and whisper it to a friend. So we're very aware of that. So I do have a little bit from the book to read out, because again, this is the redemption piece that is really great to read out. So like the curator of a museum, we are responsible for overseeing the types of art our children consume online. And again, that's that active piece we want. Remember, the role of a parent is to raise an adult. We want our children to become healthy, contributing members of society with character traits such as patience, kindness, goodness, and self-control. Unfortunately, the entertainment industry has a different version. Many of the teenagers seen on television are moody, selfish, and impulsive. They are obsessed with physical beauty. We had the comparison piece before. They sleep around, they seek revenge. They reject the wisdom of elders. They buy consumer goods and, of course, adore their devices. I struggle with this archetype and wish to pass on a healthier version of a life for my children as they grow up. This is why we teach them to critique the media they consume. So I love that Galatians 5 is 22-23 is in there. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. They're all upstairs brain functions, and they're fostered through love, strong relationships, and experience, and that's what we want. Screen context. Now, this is something that I had no idea about until I read this book, but we talk about leaning forward into the screen or leaning back. So there's a few ways that we can interact with a screen, can't we? We can have a phone, which is a lean in, because you're leaning in like this, or a screen like a TV in a lounge room where you're leaning back. And it's very important that we actually think about these types of screen exposures we give to our children. So interactive media used on tablets and phones, leaning forward, stimulates the downstairs brain, again, the fight, flight, freeze one, part of the brain, in a different way than passively, like relaxing back on a couch, watching a television screen, okay? So if you're watching Netflix on an iPad, you're actually heightening your downstairs brain more than if you watch the same show at a distance. And I found that very interesting, and it's something that we can all take home. David Murrow wrote down, Drowning in Screen Time, says parents should sharply restrict lean forward screen time because of its potential to overstimulate the brain, but allow their children a carefully monitored lean back screen use as appropriate. Be thoughtful about how early and how often your kids use interactive media in the younger years. Now, full confession, we do let our children use YouTube at home, but they're only allowed to use it on the lounge room television. Okay, it's a lean-back technology and it's a public place. And my children have learned a lot from YouTube, but we're making sure we're there. We have to be present. They're not allowed to watch it without us. So that's an example of how you can actively encourage lean-back screen use in your homes as well. And again, kids who use a handheld device like Nearwork are more likely to develop myopia. Myopia, which is nearsightedness. They reckon by 2050, half of the world's population will have myopia. Not a nice little thing. So as much as we can, we need to make sure that we're reducing the near screen environments. And even for you guys, if you work in an office, getting screen breaks every now and then and making sure that you're moving around. All right, last little bit for this section. I'm really throwing a whole lot of theory here, I realise I get that, but neuroplasticity is another thing as well. Does anyone know what neuroplasticity is? Who can describe it for me? Go, Scott.
Brain making new pathways.
Awesome. Ask the nurse. Thank you. Okay. So neuroplasticity is when you correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you repetitively do a behaviour, it retrains the brain, and that's where you get your lack of attention, and that's the thing that we need to be very careful about. So it's making sure that we understand the human brain is not fully developed until our 23rd birthday, and it's literally shaped by our experiences until then. So moderation's the key. It's not saying don't do it if that's your choice, but moderation is the key. And you don't want to lose out on practicing being in the real world. All right, I want to thank you for taking the survey. When you RSVP'd, it was very cheeky of me, I realised, but we are going to look at some of the data tonight. So the first one is, which electronic device do you use at home? Now this is, again, from last year, but it is still relevant to us because all the students have reported back that tablets are the main use of technology. And again, with a nearsighted, the near or far leaning, that's something just to be thinking about as well. Smart TVs are up there, but if we're using devices in some way like that, we want to encourage a good balance there. Next one, do you have rules around technology use in your home? I want to go to your response to, this is amazing. Okay, love that you guys all put your hand up before saying there are technology rules in your home. We've got quite a significant number of students though that say there are none. So around about a fifth. And I'm hoping that's going to change as we talk a bit more about it. When asked about what do they do online, random videos on YouTube. So what are some of the, this is one of the technology rules. So no technology on Sunday to Thursday, no devices in bedrooms, screens have to be seen, no friending strangers, no texting strangers, no talking to strangers. So there's a good amount of rules that are very similar in there. A lot of it's around time, and bedrooms came up in the word cloud as well, which is fantastic. And do you use the internet in your bedroom? Quite a few students say they do, and that worries me. And the question, do you allow your children to use the internet in their bedroom? Yes, no, or not sure. I'm glad no one said not sure. I don't know. Yeah, devices not in bedrooms. That's my recommendation. But again, I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but everything says that devices should be in a shared open space, especially in the younger years. Do you engage in online gaming or chat rooms of any kind? This is very split down the middle. And again, asking parents, do your children engage in online gaming or chat rooms of any kind? A few that are yes, no, and not sure. Even Minecraft has a chat room online, and you can disable the chat on that. But some of these games that students use, like Roblox, YouTube, Minecraft, Rocket League, Brawl Stars, a lot of them have chat features. Not all of them, but it'd be an interesting conversation to ask your children, you know, what games are you playing at the moment? Can you chat with people that are strangers? You know, oh, have you ever done that before? Probably a really interesting one. What I like about this is I ask the students, what games do you play online? Theirs is the top answer. You guys as parents, that's what you said. It's just Roblox, Minecraft. Yeah, they're playing a lot more, so chat to them about that. And do you monitor or supervise your child's online activities? Tick all that apply. This is this year, which is great because out of everyone that came here, you could tick multiple ones. So there's a lot of devices in common areas. I love that. Discussing online safety and behaviour. Again, that's highly up there. Parent-controlled apps and settings. We're actually going to go through a few resources in a moment. And then regularly checking browsing history as another good one. All right, we're going to move into some scenarios, and this is where I'm going to get you guys to turn and talk to each other because I've got a few curated scenarios here, and a few of them have been made up from the questions you've asked. So I've actually put them into a scenario so you can have a bit of a chat. Scenario 1, you're driving home from school and your 9-year-old says, "Mum, Dad, can I please get a phone? Everyone in my class has one now. I'm the only one who doesn't. It's so embarrassing. They're all in a group chat without me, and I miss out on everything." Okay. How do you respond to your child with that? And I'd love you to turn and talk to someone next to you if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, if you don't have a partner, put your hand up and I'll come and chat to you. What would you do in this situation? Has anyone been in this situation, by the way? I have. How would you respond to this? Okay, here we go. Scenario 2, it's like a continued. So let's just say, and I know a lot of us might not do this, but let's just say you set up the device for the child. You said, yep, okay. And you only gave them access to Spotify because they love music, Duolingo because they want to learn German, the camera because they're a really good photographer, and Bible app. That's all you've given them, okay? No internet access, but it's a device to use those things. They're now 11 and they've shown responsibility following the digital contract you set up for them. It's a rainy Saturday afternoon. You're making a cuppa when your 11-year-old walks in and says, "Mum, Dad, can I please get Instagram? My friends are on it and they post their photos and comment on each other's stuff. I feel left out. I won't post anything about it, I promise. I just want to see what they're doing." I love it. Nah, no way. No. Okay. Okay, so let's just say we're going to say no again because they know the reason why that you didn't have it in the first place. But how are you going to prove to them that this is, I guess, no for a greater yes? When we say no for a greater yes, we mean it's no because it's yes to a greater alternative. What's that picture of yes, this is a better idea to not do it that you're going to paint for them? You know what? Turn and talk. Turn and talk to the person next to you. Discuss this scenario, but how are you going to paint that that better picture of not getting social media that will be beneficial to them? That is something we're going to talk about later. It is about, as parents, coming up with that alternative to screen time that is going to take them away from screens. Last year we had a parent panel and Lindsay Spence said, "My kids on the weekend don't have a chance to play screens. We're way too busy. We're playing sport all weekend." I must admit, we're a netball family. Netball is from 8, when do we start? 8:20, Scott? 8:20, and Eliza finishes at 1:30, and we get home at 3 o'clock, and I actually don't mind if she has a bit of screen time, like you've been active all day. We've committed to that. And the busy Saturday sport is actually a cure for screen time. So Georgia, thank you so much for that. It's that greater yes of what you're doing as a family. It might not be sport. It might be craft or karate, or it could be bushwalking. I don't know, whatever it is. It's a challenge to provide that alternative to just sitting down. Look, this is a question that came up in the survey. So, I do want to touch on it a bit because it is an important one to talk about because it is in the media at the moment. So, Daniel C. in Tech Healthy Humans says, "We need to safeguard children from experiences that draw them in too quickly to the adult world." I love a podcast called Ed Leaders, and there was a Mal Cater who was at Mentone Grammar. He actually succeeded Tim Argle there, actually. I just found that out today. He has a really interesting quote. He says, "I want to keep children as innocent as I can for as long as I can." And we should have that mantra as well. What's the government doing with social media and the minimum age? 16. When's that coming into effect? December this year. Okay, this is from eSafety. So the Online Safety Amendment in Act 2024 introduces a mandatory minimum age of 16 for accounts on certain social media platforms, forming one of a broader strategy to create safer digital spaces for everyone. This is what the government's telling us, so they know a lot. The change aims to strengthen existing measures for protecting young users, especially where there are particular risks associated with accessing potentially harmful social media content, and features such as persistent notifications and alerts that have been found to have a negative effect on sleep, stress levels and attention. I'm actually really glad the government's doing that, and they're actually going to hold their companies accountable to actually take good measures so that children can't just lie about their age, but they have to jump through a lot of hoops. I don't believe that they're going to do that though, but I do like that the government's on this and that there is bipartisan support for such a bill. So that is really something to be thankful for. So that's just there. We've touched on this a bit too, but Georgia just said something there. How can we keep our children occupied without screens? This is a question from you guys. It's a struggle for work from home parents and during school holidays. I have 2 boys and they keep needing the next challenge. Who has a busy household at home? Okay. I'm not going to open this one up, but I do have a bit of a, we're a busy family as well, okay? I'll admit to that. What I've noticed is that screen-based activities are the 10 out of 10, I want to go and do that because I know that I'm going to have enjoyment out of it. I'm not even thinking about afterwards. That's what my kids think about it. I've been trying to say to them, what is the 2 or 3 out of 10 activity that is as boring as all heck that you could do? Because that's the alternative. And as soon as you embrace that and you embrace the fact that you'll never get anything as perceived to be as exciting as a screen activity, that's when you can start to negotiate those alternatives of, you know, my wife and I have been really excited. My daughter has, the stubborn one, has really all of a sudden wanted to become a marine biologist, and she started doing paper mache marine animals and decorating her bedroom, and I cannot believe it because it takes her hours to make these things, and I've just gone over and done a sneaky high five to my wife who's going, check this out, it's amazing. So it can happen, and I guess it's just helping them with that. This might be really boring doing a puzzle, but once you're into it, you might find it a little bit more exciting. It's helping them through that because they can't regulate that alternative. They just want to use a screen-based activity. And that's not addiction. That's just not knowing what to do. So that's what you can do with that one. That's not an easy thing to navigate though. All right, so we're going to move on now to some strategies and also just what we can do at home. We're coming close to the end now, so I just want to land it all with a bit of, I want you guys to be able to take home some resources. The first one is, and this is from the survey too, do you regularly talk about online safety and screen time with your child? 24 of you said yes, 10 said no. Love it to be 100%. Just talk to your kids. That is the first strategy, regularly talking to your children, even just touching base. How do you think our family contract is going? Do you think our rules fair? And then negotiate here and there. But conversations, things to be talking about if you're using technology, and you do allow technology, it's the line of prove to us you're responsible with a little and we'll entrust you with more when the time is right. I understand that we all come from different backgrounds here where some of us have some technology, some have none. In our family, we've had devices where they were called music players, and we literally said, this is a music player. It will play Spotify only because they like listening to music, and that's all it did. And then when Eliza got a bit older and she got into year 7, we drew up a phone contract where she actually had limited access to the device in a way that she could communicate with us and no one else on her contacts list. But we said, we're entrusting you with more because you've proven to us that you can actually be responsible with this amount of technology. So I think that's if you're thinking about, do I give screens to my child, or a phone to my child, or a device at the right time? You know, start really small maybe, or not at all. It's totally up to you. All right. And this is just about conversations because this is how often parents talk to their children. This is from esafety.gov as well. So we're typically around about the middle range regularly and a few times. All the time up there. I'm actually quite happy with this sort of a spread here. A few times or regularly is where the majority of parents are. So just having that conversation around the dinner table is really important. I wanted to add to this as well a word called automaticity, which is the ability to do something without needing to consciously think about it, because it has been practiced so much that it becomes second nature. And sometimes these sorts of tech habits, we want an automaticity in our house. So it's only using YouTube on the lounge room TV. I'm not even going to try to use it on something else. It's just automatically what you do, and that's what's being done. You're aiming for that automaticity. All right, I'm going to charge my device over here. I never take it to my bedroom. You want that to be just second nature. It's like reading. Once you've read a book, once you've learnt how to read, that's automaticity as well. And even learning your times tables, again, that's automaticity. You can get to that stage with some of your rules. So if you think them out really well and get to that automaticity stage, that will help you so much with some of the conversations. And even if they do bring it up, you're just like, what? I'm not even going to talk about that. Automaticity. Yeah, we've talked about this. Screens visible adults have a centralised charging dock for your devices too. I'm into my 4th year of having my phone out of my bedroom, and that's probably one of the biggest tech detoxes I've been very thankful for. So as soon as I'm in bed, I'm not getting any notifications or anything. It's in the lounge room, and it's really great. So that centralised point's important. Now, family technology agreements. I'm going to double click on this one. I'm very aware that we're coming close to 8 o'clock. Did anyone get the Schoolbox News message today about the discussion for Cyber Safety Week? Good, there's one every day. There's 5. And those discussion points on Friday will lead you to your family technology agreement. So when you see it, don't swipe left and go, no thanks. Have a look at it. Have a bit of a chance to chat about it as a family. If you need to do it next week because you're busy, that's fine. But I've specifically put all these questions down, and if you record your discussion, by the end you'll have a family technology agreement. My bold goal is for every single family in this school to have a family technology agreement. Okay? Whether it goes to no technology or whether it says, these times, these days, at a minimum, that your children at least know what your boundaries are. Ideally, it's written out and it's signed. Now, there's a few examples here. There's one for 0 to 4 years, which is on esafety.gov. You can actually just see where it's, you just got to tick off when you can use your device, or when they're allowed to even watch a TV show, whatever it is, where the device is always put away. There's one for 5 to 8. This is where you can actually select some of the options. Like, I'll limit my time online. For example, I'll use my device for how many hours each weekday and this many hours on the weekend. Getting them to actually come up with it. That's on esafety.gov as well. And Think You Know, this is another good one. This is for, we use this actually in our Year 6 curriculum. Children will actually do this for a homework task. So if you've got children in Year 6, you'll actually see this come home and they'll be making their own at school, because we believe going into high school, they should definitely have a family technology agreement. If you're looking at devices, this is from Daniel C's book, Raising Tech Healthy Humans. If you're ever going to get a device for your child under the age of 18, buy them. So that way you own them, and then they don't have the whole, well, I bought it, I saved up for it, I can do what I want with it. You need to own the device, and you need to set up the digital contract. And we did this with Eliza. It's got screen time. It turns off at 8 p.m. at night. Internet turns off at 6. She's only got the apps that she's allowed. She's got no Safari, but she's got school-enabled apps, and she uses Duolingo. It's actually really beneficial for some of the things she's been doing at school, provided that there is a screen limit for each app. And even Duolingo has 30-minute screen time limit. I don't want to using it more than that, even though it's a good app. So using internet filters as well. I've got a few examples of what that looks like, and also parental controls. They're very different things. Filters are what you allow your children to look at. Parental controls are actually when the device will time out and turn off. So I've gone through that there. So a few examples of internet filtering. Look, literally, I could do your Googling for you, and I have, but if you Google routers with parental controls, you're going to find some ones that are out of the box, have an app that's really easy to use, and you can actually set up profiles for different members of your home. I use a Unify system at home, and that gives me all traffic to any device. And I've set up a children's internet only network that connects to their Wi-Fi device only. For Eliza's device for school, she can only connect it into a dock, and it's the only way she can get internet. She doesn't have Wi-Fi on that. So she has to plug it into that, which is in a screen in our lounge room, which is seen by everyone. So if she's doing homework, she's sitting at the desk doing homework in the desk. She's not sitting in her bedroom, she's not sitting on the lounge. She's at a desk with no Wi-Fi, but it's hardwired if she needs internet. So things like that are really, really important when you're setting up devices for your home. Netgear have actually released a new app that goes with all of their routers at the moment, and I find this quite amazing. So it was called Circle, but this is the one where you can actually set up the time for the different users and device usage and website history. So that's on your notes there as well. And a few screen time strategies for your children. Talk about a set amount of screen time if you're going to use screens. Use a timer, get them to actually do the timer. I go into my lounge room, I'm just like, hey Google, how much longer on the timer? If it says no time, I'm just like, turn that off. I seriously am, we just go, turn it off. They know that if they're watching like YouTube, they get half an hour a day after they've done their homework, and on the weekends it's an hour, half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon in a public space. But get the children to actually do that. Give them 5-10 minute warnings. If they are using near technology, that downstairs brain is heightened, give them a chance to actually chill out a bit and go, all right, 5-10 minutes left. And then when you come up, nice to, hey, how you going? Your 10 minutes is up. You all right? Okay, you need another minute. All right, one more minute. Okay, I think we're laughing because we've been there. Helping them transition to another activity. At the 5-10 minute mark, hey, we're about to have dinner and I need you to come down. Your children might be fine, they might get up and move down, but sometimes you might need to transition them to another activity. And agree on device-free times, that's really important. And at least 1 hour before bedtime, devices off. A few last resources. We've got Raising Humans and Anxious Generation. I've said that. And eSafety and Think You Know, both very good. Think You Know is a great organisation for a lot of resources, and eSafety's got a lot of statistics and that sort of thing. So Think You Know is actually a great resource I would get you to look at. Another one, who's watched Role of a Lifetime? Has anyone watched this? It's actually really good. We've got time. We're just going to quickly watch a quick trailer.
Hello, I'm Amanda Keller, and welcome to our brand new series all about parenting. You know, that full-time job where you get no training and the pay is terrible and you can't quit and lives are actually at stake.
Would you like to buy some lemonade?
Rack off, I'm filming. Children, of course, are a joy, but being a parent or a caregiver is hard, and we don't always get it right. My son once asked for a piece of fruit, and to my shame, I told him to get a biscuit because I was too tired to get off the couch and cut up an orange. We've all been there. But parenting tweens and teens nowadays is next level tricky, thanks to the hyper-connected, digital device-ridden world we live in. Don't get me wrong, tech is great. Those dog adoption videos aren't going to watch themselves. But with it comes a whole lot of pressures and problems that our parents could never have imagined.
Oi, what'd you say to my kid?
Right, maybe we should go. To bring those parenting challenges to life, we've created our very own sitcom, using actors to play out the very raw, very real problems facing Australian families today. Meet the Malik family. Playing mum, actor, author and broadcaster Kate Ritchie. Comedian Nazim Hussain as Dad. With Kira McLennan as 15-year-old Abby.
Oh, you're joking me.
And Casper Frost as 10-year-old Jack. And in the plum role of Nan, that doyen of Australian stage and screen, special guest Heather Mitchell. Stepping off the set and into the real world as themselves,
all right, everyone, listen up.
Kate and Naz will take a deep dive into the problems causing parents the biggest headaches and heartache.
If I feel like this, imagine what young people or my daughter would feel like.
We have a cultural acceptance of bullying in this country that is the second worst in the world.
I didn't think I looked very pretty in it.
What's TikTok?
Oh!
Wait, really?
I'm joking.
social media content creator Tom Ford gets the inside word on how teens view parenting.
I blocked my mum.
And guiding us through the parenting minefield, author, podcaster and parenting guru, the Queen of Common Sense, Maggie Dent.
I absolutely do think parenting's harder today. Before, we always knew there was a generation gap. Now I call it a chasm.
It's going to be a wild ride, a bit like parenting itself. And while we don't claim to have all the answers, we will arm you with the latest science, information, hints and tips so that you can work out how best to play this sometimes crazy but crucial role of parent, which for many of us is the role of a lifetime.
All right, now I wanted to show you the whole thing because it is worth watching. It is very worth watching. My wife and I have watched it, and it's very light-hearted, and it will start conversations, if not now, into the future. All right, well, before we go, I think it's important for us to commit to change. So I'm going to give you, I know it's a little, I've gone a bit over time, I apologise. I do want to give you just time to think about 2 things that you're going to enact when you leave this place. So you've got your pencil. Have a bit of a think about what you've heard tonight. Think of 2 action points that you're going to intentionally do, and I want you to write down when you're going to do them as well. Okay, don't do them next week. Think about this week. When are you going to actually sit down and do that thing? Okay? Wonderful. All right. Well, I'm going to, one more final comment, and Tanya came up with this one, but this is one of my favourite authors, Stephen McAlpine. So let me read this to finish it off. Because technology is good. It can be good. We need content creators who have a deep, creatively compelling and biblically rich story to tell, or whatever platform is available to them. Araya, think about it, TikTok can be just as significant as a long-form blog essay. It's time to work together as Christian creatives to come up with the ever more compelling ways to use digital platforms to do digital discipleship. And with that, I'm going to pray. Father God, I thank you for tonight, and Lord, our heart is that we are raising children that know the fruits of the Spirit, that live out love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness and self-control. And Lord, as parents, we really feel strongly about technology. And Lord, every single family in here is guided by you. We pray for wisdom, God, in our discussions. We pray for acceptance from our children. But also, God, we really do pray for healthy discussion and even debate that can really build relationships with our families. So go before us, we pray, and we do ask that you be with us in this really tough role of a lifetime. In your name we pray. Amen. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for coming, guys. Go well, and I want you to be chatting to people about this, and chat with me if you'd like to at any point in time, because it's a conversation that needs to keep going. All right?
We please
Thanks so much.
thank Brendan for the work.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, keep those conversations going, guys, with each other as well. All right, so that scenario of everybody's doing it doesn't just fit in the technology world. It's, the parties, it's the this, it's the that, it's the, they can go to the shops, they can do this. Keep talking to each other. You are your best support network. So find people that align with you in your year group and keep those conversations going, not just about digital, but about how to raise these wonderfully created human beings for good, because they are amazing. They've got huge potential, but you need each other's support. So work together in community. Yeah.
Awesome.
Bless
Thanks,
you.
Tanya.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, guys.